Fuck My Life project, the FML project. Oh damn! You want all the news? Yeah, it's a lot of things have been happening, and it's very much like psychedelic related because I was trying to figure out what's the best way to get people to see my side of how I see psychedelics, and that is basically the scientific way, the way how we see it, like personal development, using it for more than just the buzz and all those things. So we were talking about what if we get them early. This is gonna sound so horrible, but I'm gonna get some context. We were thinking about creating a Roblox game, which is going to get people into the whole system and then creating a personal development journey through Roblox from when my son is 7 years old and he's kicking my ass in Roblox. And we figured if we're using that technology with AI and everything that's coming out and really bridging the gap between nature and virtual and all that stuff, giving them some insights into spirituality and personal development early through a game, that would be cool. But then that's just the beginning. So we have that whole human development center called Valhalla, where we talked about that earlier, like just host these 3D virtual reality psychedelic therapy sessions, which is something that I think in the proper setting would be pretty freaking amazing. So while we're doing that, we're basically just taking it one step at a time. And I have, as I said to George earlier, we have this community with 7,000 people in Norway, which is quite substantial given the size of the country, who are all in that group because it's about liberty caps. And we're talking to lawyers, journalists, politicians, doctors. We're talking to all the people that we can to change the law in Norway because it's so retarded, in lack of a better word. But we're basically trying to raise awareness, increase, the whole security around it, reducing harm, and just trying to make sure that people understand the potential of this. But also while doing that in a very new kind of way, using personal development and this knowledge, I guess, this knowledge-based industry in a different way than I've seen before. So a lot of things are happening. I just picked up streaming again, trying to get more social, get more out there. And it's so enjoyable because now, as you get out there, people are starting to pay attention. You're talking about your dream. People are coming in with investments and all that stuff. And you're like, should I do this? Should I not? Lots of things are happening. I think we're changing the world, literally. How about you?
Yeah, I would agree, and I'm not surprised, but I'm excited to hear you guys are 7,000 strong over there
Mm.
because it doesn't take much, And what I really one of the things I really admire about psychedelics is that while it's a personal journey,
Mm-hmm.
it's like wrestling kind of. You know what I mean? It's like if you wrestle for a living, like you go out and you face that guy alone, but you're still on a team. You know what I mean? And everybody on your team has to win if you want to win the dual meet. But if you're wrestling a tournament, it's you versus that other person. So it's an individual sport, but it's still a team. And I think that's kind of similar to psychedelics. Everyone goes on their personal journey. Everyone has their own things that they're working on. But together, everyone working on their individual game is making the world a little bit better. And so
Exactly.
I had this point I wanted to bring up to both of you guys and get your opinion. I spoke to this girl yesterday who's a sound she's a audio artist. So she works for, movies, televisions, video games, and she's the one that gets the sound just right. And it's the pitch, it's the gain, it's the volume, it's all these things of setting up sound. And I was thinking to myself, I know that in clinical trials, whether it's ketamine, whether it's LSD, or whether it's anything that the pharmaceutical or big companies are working on, they use set and setting. And I know
Mm.
they have playlists. But I'm thinking, wouldn't it be an amazing thing to introduce sound into those clinical trials? Because I think you could use sound as an anchoring. Like, people that have anxiety are going or have PTSD are using psilocybin or psychedelics to get over that anxiety. But sometimes we all know that afterglow falls off after a month or something like that. But if you have a sound embedded in your mind while you're deep in that trip, then you could bring that sound back up as an anchor and it could pull you back from the ledge if you have that anxiety. What do you think, Tor? Is that something that sounds plausible?
I think it sounds plausible. It's basically like the Pavlov's dogs, right?
There you go.
Like, yeah, just conditioning your brain to react in those situations. I'm trying to see, like, picturing myself in a trip, depending on the degree of depth, I guess. But
That's a good point.
yeah, would you be in a place where you can remember that and then snap back from a bad reality? That's something I have to test out.
I think it's possible. What do you think,
Yeah.
Paul?
Well, I just wanted to touch on something that Tor was
Yeah.
saying that on the
Yeah.
project that he's working on. I'm in Hawaii, Tor, United States of America, and so I'm just wondering, what are the psychedelic laws like in Norway?
That's a great question.
Ridiculous. That's the biggest covering. It's basically Norway loves to follow the U.S.
Mm.
So you guys are working. It's illegal. You're working towards
Mm.
legalization, or it's been decriminalized but not legalized,
Completely,
or
completely criminalized. Like it's
completely
yeah, yeah.
criminalized.
It's so taboo that you'll be looked at side by heroin junkies and everything. Like we don't know. People don't know enough about this in Norway. So that's kind of where I see myself playing
Wow.
an important role because the Justice Department, like we had people going around interviewing people. So this TV show was doing this raising awareness program for cannabis, I think, and it is in the same category almost like. And when they asked the Justice Minister, the Prime Minister of Justice, whatever it's called, um, he said that it's illegal. That's why it's illegal. It's illegal. I was like, do you have any actual facts or base something to base this on? Well, yes, he's going to send you the sources afterwards. And then, in post, they said what their sources were. And there was one fucking, this tabloid magazine with a fucking article and one uncredited blog post. That's where he goes and finds his facts. So no medical research, no authority from any people who's actually been doing anything with this. And he was just so arrogant, so stubborn in his ways that is just no, that's just how it is. And that's how Norwegians are. We are very much like to stay in our limited mindset if we're not feeling whatever we are trying to be convinced of, right? If I can't make them feel a psychedelic trip, I'm pretty sure they will take those opinions to the grave, and that is a hard sell. Like that makes the job interesting.
And so, like, what about other drugs? What about like marijuana? What
Yeah.
about alcohol? You guys have loose alcohol, like lower age restrictions,
Oh yeah.
18, 15. Marijuana, totally illegal as well.
Yeah, marijuana totally illegal. Getting a little bit awareness around that, but alcohol is monopolized and just praised as the end all be all drug for everyone because everyone needs to drink. It's basically said from the government, right? That is the one thing that is legal, so that's what everyone will just say. Well, of course I drink. I'm drunk every New Year's Eve, every Christmas party. I'm drunk because that's just how we roll. But
And so,
yeah,
do you think that you think there's a push from I mean, how big is your alcohol industry? Do you think they have
huge man.
a a influence on the criminalization of other substances as well? Like,
Yeah,
you think that
I,
a
I
movement in the alcohol industry to keep things illegal, to keep other drugs illegal or other substances illegal?
I wouldn't be surprised, man, because here, like, I stopped drinking a few years ago. After I found psychedelics, I basically stopped drinking, right? And then that's when I started to pay attention. And I think that the industries here, like the pharmaceutical industries and the alcohol industries, are so huge that it wouldn't surprise me if there was some lobbying behind there to make sure that marijuana just stays where it is, because I think they see a loss of profit if not. But in Norway,
Right.
we are smart. Like we keep people in the prisons through money. Like if we can keep a person just comfortable, giving them free money every month, could be like $500. They won't put up that much of a fight because if they do, they will lose that money, right? And that's
Right.
why,
Right.
yeah. So right now, I think there's a lot more happening behind the scenes than what we see, but it's done in a very smart way. So it's hard to kind of get the truth out there because we look like the crazy people. We are the crazy people.
Right. Well, that's cool then. I mean, like 7,000 people, I'm
Yeah.
assuming mostly Norwegians, right? That's substantial.
It is if people actually saw what we're trying to talk about. Like, okay, just to give you context.
I mean, considering all the circumstances, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But most people are like afraid to be associated, so they won't comment, they won't like, they won't speak up about their use, they won't do anything that could kind of put them in a negative light in terms of society, and that is a problem, right? Because you see that given that it is a group about specifically about liberty caps, and given that many people who does psychedelics have this more unifying feeling of people around them. They won't judge a Muslim just because he's a Muslim, mostly, right? Because we see beyond that. We see that just because he follows Islam doesn't mean he's a terrorist, more or less, just to put it on the point. But yesterday we had one of those articles, those posts. A Muslim posted a post, and we had to remove it after 24 hours because people were like, "Isn't this about drugs? We can't have religion in here, right?" And that kind of paints a picture. Like, even though 7,000 people is substantial, many are not. Like,
and so, what has been the historical, cultural response to mushrooms in Norway? I mean, is there anything dating back, to the earliest of Norwegians, using these substances? Is there any, um, anything about a history there of using these things, or is this relatively new? And also, I guess I'd have another question. I'm just trying to figure, kind of get an idea of what's facing over there. But like, we had this like cultural revolution that was pretty big in the late 60s and the mid 70s, and I think that cultural revolution kind of went around the world. And so, just kind of get an understanding of Norway, history with psychedelics. And then during our cultural revolution, if like your parents or grandparents or whoever were, in their younger, 20s, teens, 20s, 30s back then, if they had any experience with psychedelics.
yeah, some of them, not all of them, because as I said, Norway loves to just follow the US. If anything happens over there, you can bet your ass that within a year, a few years, people will do it here as well. Like, the government will follow it, people will follow it. So we had a hippie revolution here as well, if we want to say it like that. But the people that went into that revolution basically went underground afterwards. So now they are hermits. They are hermits and they live alone because who wouldn't? And now they're getting to that point where they're basically dying out. And this new revolution is kind of coming out from the underground. So I don't know. Cultural heritage. I think that also the Vikings used Amanita muscaria quite a lot. And also I wouldn't put it under a rock that they used liberty caps as well, because they were crazy. So I think that our society is very much based on this substance, but most people just seem to ignore it or don't want to entertain the thought. But we had those revolutions, just not as much as you had in the U.S.
That's
You know,
interesting.
I think that it's ripe for a disruption in that, like, the 7,000 people that are in that group, they seem to me to be people that may not be super fond of authority. And when
Yeah.
you look at the revolutions or you look at the movements in any sort of society that abides by authority, there's always a subgroup that wants to show, hey, I don't like being told what to do. And I think you can harness that. Maybe there's a movement we could start with your group. Like, maybe it's wearing a red wristband, or maybe it is wearing a symbol that's cool, that the people in authority don't know what it means. I think that has always been a way for people to show their disdain for authority while standing up for what they believe in. And it's about, whether it's a red and white wristband like an Amanita mascara, or like the LC. You could use the LC as like the initials of Liberty Cap. You can start putting out shirts, or start putting out, maybe we could on this podcast do some giveaways to your people. Then they could, or just something, or flyer stuff out. But you start putting up that little that flyer or that sticker in people's windows, and people know, oh, that guy's part of the tribe. And I think it kind of grows on itself like that. But I've seen movements build that way,
Yeah.
and it's always built around something people are passionate about. And sometimes the best movements are based on things that are deemed illegal by the authority figures. And clearly, you could make the case that, at least in the United States, it was stated that the reason they kept psychedelics as a Schedule 1, and some of them still are, is that they were afraid of people beginning to think for themselves. And if
Exactly.
you look at the psychedelic renaissance we're in now, you can see people waking up to their own power. You can see people deciding their own ideas, blazing their own path. And maybe that's something scary that's for the people over there. So something to think about.
Oh, we're actually doing it. Like,
Nice.
yeah, a little bit more context. Everything that we do is basically in the umbrella of the Legacy Forge, which is under the FML project. But the Legacy Forge is meant to basically teach people about their own power, like just through personal development, but also
Yeah.
with plant medicine as a tool to reach those new levels. And as we have, I think we mentioned it before, but I think that once a person reach financial liberty, not like I now have millions, but if you're able to create money using the tools that we have today, if you're able to package your knowledge and sell it to another person, and you have money to be, you have everything taken care of, you don't have to fear the government taking away your support, right? You don't have to fear your boss giving you just firing you if you do anything that is out of bounds. You have much more freedom in doing whatever you want and saying whatever you want because the money is not going to be taken away. So the Legacy Forge is there to teach people these skills, to teach them about personal development, spirituality, if they will, plant medicine, and most of all, almost, just to get that self-security, that self-confidence that they can actually make money by helping another human being. Because, as we all know, that is not something that is being taught in school. Like, we learn all this unnecessary shit, but we don't learn how to value our own experience and to help another person with that. It's insane. I've seen that mentality as well, because if you try to sell anything to a Norwegian, I tried to sell a $10 thing and I got called a cult leader. Yeah, literally. It was insane.
Yeah. In America, we call that "fuck you" money.
Yeah, exactly. You need "fuck you" money.
Mhm.
That's
And
a
then,
good term.
but what's interesting is that like looking. Am I correct in saying that Norwegian history is Viking history?
Yeah, some of it. Like, we are not pussies.
Some of it.
Most of us are pacified Vikings. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of them are like.
Yeah, but
yeah.
I mean, I know, like, just from what history has taught us in different movements around the world when it comes to either practices, language, substances, dances, anything that's cultural that's been suppressed over time. Usually it's been like young people that have gone back into their own cultural history and been like, look, our ancestors used to use mushrooms or
Exactly.
peyote or marijuana or any of these other different things, or certain types of dances or dress or whatever it was. And even in those societies where in modern times they're illegal, it's this reconnection with culture, historical culture, that has often been like the pathway to change. Just getting enough people, if there was such a history of using, mushrooms or whatever, psychedelics. I know that Vikings drink mead, which can be kind of a hallucinogen, right? Like if you let it go long enough, it has a euphoria properties about it that aren't present in most other alcohols.
Yeah.
And so it's those types of connections, I think, that help, that have always helped cultures move past these roadblocks of taboo.
That's a really good point, because like the book that made me see things very much differently, this like the Hidden Key, The Secret Religion with No Name by Brian Marescu. And he's talking about ergot, right? Just mold growing on bread. And given the technology back in the day, I have no questions that the mead might have been psychedelic at times, that they knew about Liberty caps, because I mean, at some point, some person in this country must have ate the fucking mushroom, and then
Guaranteed.
Yeah, and then spiking these things with things like ergot. Maybe they learn how to cultivate it, because 2,000 years ago they clearly did, and the Viking Age is 1,000 years younger. So absolutely. But here now, when you say that, let's say that you're proud, God forbid, that you're proud of your heritage or lineage, right? Now is like, oh, you're such a toxic masculinity kind of guy, right? We have that kind of mentality going on, because it seems like Norway is too modern for its own good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can't be all about toxic masculinity. I mean, there's Viking culture was what I know about it, which is very limited, was much more than just that.
Exactly.
Right.
Values.
I mean, these deeply ceremonial, religious, people who just not only believed in like multiple entities, multiple deities,
For
you
different
know,
parts
and
of nature.
different parts of nature.
Yeah.
And so to have that, to have that type of history, they paid homage to many different things, just, toxic masculinity. But you know what? Because of like Hollywood and, you know, and those, specific aspects of Viking culture history have been told in such a way that a lot of people are now associating that culture with toxic masculinity, with warmongering, with raping and pillaging, with
Exactly.
thievery, and all the rest of those things, right? And it's like there's nothing. There's nothing unmasculine about embracing all of the the softer sides of Viking history as well. Hawaiians got caught up in the same situation that Vikings have.
I can imagine. Yeah, because there were warriors on Hawaii, right? Still are to some degree.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Very much a warrior culture.
Mm-hmm.
And but embracing softer stuff like hula,
Yeah.
like like rhythmic drumming and different things through it told their story. But but people get associated, and it's not just Hawaiians, it's most of Polynesia,
Yeah.
right? Where it's this warrior, haku, tribal warfare mentality, that is also plaguing, not just, like I said, not just Hawaiian, but Polynesian culture as a whole. And so what do? We got to get back. You know what I mean? We got to, that, I mean, that it is there, right? Those things are real, and then that is a rich part of Hawaiian culture history as well. But also to promote the other things that within the culture that most people don't see.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like the whole, I would say that if you're not a really good partner if you don't have feminine sides to really resonate with your feminine partner, if that makes sense. And if you are in any kind of relationship, you need to have the balance. You need to know how to feel. Basically, acknowledge your freaking emotions. And I think that, in that case, when you see the Vikings, the historical aspect of it, they were really into grooming, really clean people, like making tools to make themselves look good, like earwax out of the making them look good. And you wouldn't do that just to die young or just to make a pretty corpse. I think that you did that because there was a mutual respect there. Like there was this thing that people seem to have forgotten, and it's sad. But I think, yes, you're right. We need to bring awareness that doesn't really it doesn't vibe. Like Vikings is a show. It's made for Hollywood.
Yeah. And so, like, all of those old ancient cultural. So I guess my point to the whole thing is like what I was saying before, is it's really hard to argue against one's own culture, if it's rooted in historical fact.
Yeah.
And so you could be like, look, our ancestors participated in ceremony or whatever it was, and we used these medicines, right, to give us insight, to help us understand one another, for protection of our communities, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And then it forces people to like really look at it in a different light, and really kind of look at themselves and how they view things, right?
Yeah.
And then even more important is that if you can tie that to like some sort of opposition culture, like the reason why we no longer do these certain practices is just because this other opposition culture, then you could really start to bring Norwegians together and support, and whether or not they actually want to participate in the use of these substances or not, you know what I mean? They will support it, right? Because they look at young people, and especially older people. They're going to be like, look, we have to, at some point, people reach a certain age where they have to start looking towards the younger people, to kind of lead, to step up and to take more of a prominent role in society, and this could be one of those things.
I could not agree more. I think that when we met, George, we were about to go into one of these ceremonies. That turned into what you're saying, Paul. Like it turned into way more than a psychedelic trip. It was a ceremony where we basically honored where we came from. And then it dawned on me afterwards, like in Norway, we are very strong on religion. Ironically enough, because we had a Viking dude that just went off and killed off the entire cultural, spiritual beliefs, killed off the old gods by Christianizing, making the entire Norway Christian, right? And because of that, Norway is really freaking strong in religions. We have literally a person who started a religion called the Flying Spaghetti Monster. I'm not shitting you. And the rules are simple. You can start a religion in Norway. If you're not listed with another church, if you have a creed, and I believe that the whole unified cosmocentric worldview and just what you see on a psychedelic trip is very easily translated into something that could be a creed for a religion. And then just going back and using this as an umbrella for the 𝐓𝐡𝐞, like the Viking belief, and say this is what they use for sacraments. This is literally it, and you can just check it. So I've been seriously contemplating to just start a religion, because in Norway, again, first of all, you need 50 people. You need 50 people to sign up to either like to register officially as a religion, and then if you get 1,000 people, you start getting freaking support from the government, which is $100 per person per year. And if you have 7,000, that's actually money in the bank just by being a freaking religion, which is crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I was thinking, it's funny you mentioned the whole church thing, a psychedelic church, because you were mentioning earlier, like we have the whole growing the psilocybin in Jamaica, and it being legal there, and Jamaica is like huge on religion. I think there's more bars and church per capita than anywhere in the world in Jamaica. And I was thinking to like looking into like possibly starting a psychedelic church too, with psilocybin being legal. It's kind of something I was looking into too. But Norway seems like it would be pretty risky.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have politicians right now who did it for the drugs. They literally did it to get high, and that just infuriates me, because they went on a show and they took 8 grams of Liberty Caps on live TV in a barren apartment with a frickin' host that tried to scare the crap out of him with a mask. So, of course, that did not come off like a good thing for the movement. But just the fact that he was fighting for this, and just because we have this religious support, basically, and because it was reacted to, like he was fined and he was threatened with jail and all that stuff. So now we actually have a legal battle going on in Norway, because if religion is so prioritized, then that should be legal. Maybe not as we're going to use MDMA, LSD, DMT, and all those things as sacraments, but if you use one, Liberty Caps, Norwegian's natural frickin' psychedelic, I see it as logical. It should be able.
Are there strains of psilocybin that are like indigenous to Norway that grow there?
We have Liberty Caps.
Yeah, well then that makes sense. Like you guys have, if you have like a church that's based around that, because it's like regional and has to do with you and everything. And there's churches already. I know in Denver. Denver has psychedelic churches.
I need to funnel hack them.
There's one in Arizona.
What? You have several psychedelic churches in the U.S.?
There you go. Yeah, probably. I would imagine there probably a lot more than one.
Oh, the Peyote Way Church of Arizona.
Yeah, because
I recently talked to a guy they started their so they found a way to get mushroom. It's called the Church of 𝐒𝐴𝐴𝐿, and 𝐒𝐴𝐴𝐿 is it's a molecule almost exactly similar to the toad venom, which is I think is bufotane or something like that. But they feed the bufo to the mushroom, and then the mushroom produces the 𝐒𝐴𝐴𝐿, which is like a combination of the two. And so they're able to use that as their sacrament. They patent it, and they work primarily with veterans, and they were able to get their all their paperwork done, because they, it comes down to semantics, basically, like a sort of language. Like, this is the sacrament we use. It's our particular, it's our patentable thing that we have figured out a way to use. It's not illegal on any books anywhere, because it's a new substance that we created, and therefore it's not on the books anywhere. So you can't say it's this psychedelic that's bad. you know, I could put you in contact with those guys, and they could and you could talk to them about the way in which they set stuff up. I don't think that they're ready to start sharing their 𝐶𝐶 recipe with anybody. But you know, there's Anthony and his friend in Jamaica. They have different strains that they're doing. If the problem with setting up a church in Norway was finding a specific type of psychedelic, I think Anthony and those guys could probably help you with that.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're looking for. Like all everything that we grow and produce, we have like we bred and we bred like over 100 different varieties of psilocybin, just a whole bunch of different oyster mushroom, penis envy, a bunch of different ones that we essentially mutated to create higher levels of psilocybin and psilocine in them. And some of them have like some of them have less psilocybin but higher levels of psilocine. So it's kind of more the onset and the psychoactive effect comes quicker than normally. So I'm not sure exactly what you'd want, but I would imagine that you probably want something that's relatively low and not very strong.
No, extremely strong.
Oh, you want extremely strong.
Like Liberty Caps, as far as my knowledge, and I have studied this, are on the third most potent in the world. They have a lot of psilocybin, but a lot less psilocin. But they have a lot of 𝐓𝐡𝐞.
Do you know what the overall tryptamine? Like, do you have any idea of like the percentage of the tryptamine content, like the overall, or have you had any tested?
I haven't had any tested, but Stamets wrote about them in Magical Mushrooms of the World, I think.
Yeah.
Where he has this graph, and it says you have the 𝐓𝐴𝐶 on top, and then 𝐴𝐴 something on the second, and then 𝐶𝐴𝐴 on the third. But it is low. It's high on psilocybin, low on psilocin, but it's also high on 𝐵𝑎𝑂-cysteine. I think that is the name, but it's a weird name. And we are still trying to figure out, is that what is making it so potent? Because it's tiny, but it kicks like a mule.
Anthony, could you, if you had like a sample of that particular strain, could you guys find out? Could you figure out?
We could test it.
You could test it, right?
We could get it tested and get the tryptamine content. So
that
we
might
know
be
how much you would, what the tryptamine content will give us essentially is just how much the active compounds in there. So the psilocybin and the psilocine, and it'll give us a percentage of each one, and then overall together is the full tryptamine content. So just of the active pharmaceutical, well, the active ingredients in the mushrooms.
Yeah.
You could have like
you know what, Thor, man? I wouldn't go around looking for something that isn't unregistered or people don't know about to try to circumvent law.
Yeah, you're right.
Just just go through the wall, man. Just you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
And I also think like it's going to be hard doing what you want to do in Norway. Like to your point before, there's all these barriers of entry, and I think like pharmaceutical companies, the alcohol companies, the tobacco companies, like this is like psychedelics are disruptive for all of them, right? So
yeah, exactly.
They have billions of dollars that they're playing with, and they're going to be lobbying for you not to be doing that.
Yeah, exactly. We are seeing some rise in private sitters. Like if you are a sitter and you have it clearly specified on your website that you do not provide the drugs, you're literally just there with other people doing the drugs who are nameless, and then those people supply themselves, then you're technically not breaking the law, but it's still a very gray zone. So I have a lot of confidence that if we continue, if we get people out there with their stories, emotional stories, and how they got from suicide to actually creating a life that they love, and more people are kind of joining that message, then that is the most obvious thing to me that will actually provide change. Because then you can't deny the people. If you have a whole bunch of people coming up and saying that, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is the science and this is the effect. I should be dead. Come at me, right? Because we're not breaking the law. That's the beauty of this. Like, when you've gone through one experience, you don't really need to take mushrooms. Like, I take very rarely, I do ceremonies because I don't need it, because I had the personal development on side of that to really get me the insights that I need. So if people just saw that it's not a drug, it's a medicine, and you don't want to do it all the time, because if you do, you're crazy. And all these things. I can't imagine going on a trip and just do it recreationally every single day. I couldn't even fuck that. So
Yeah, George.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I said, how is that, George?
I went through a phase like a month ago where I did it every single day for a month,
how much?
and like, well, I would just do like somewhere between a half gram and a gram.
Oh, that it's
And
cubensis.
you know, yeah.
So
yeah,
basically a
and so-
microdose. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say a little bit more.
A little bit more. Yeah.
a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah,
Grams
yeah.
per
A
gram.
gram is if you do a full gram, like the lights are on. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
colors are different. You're
Yeah.
thinking different, but it's not enough to
Put you
change
there.
the way you drive a car. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not going to change. In my opinion, I don't think you're putting yourself in danger or anything like that. But it does fundamentally shift the way you see the world. And there's couple things I've learned on it. One, I began thinking that the idea of tolerance was bullshit because I took it and I'm like, you know what? I still feel it. And I thought that maybe day 2, day 3 would be a little bit less. Felt about the same to me. Day 4, 5, and 6, maybe a little bit less. But the fact that I could still feel a gram on day 7 and on day 12, it made me rethink a lot of the literature that's out there about tolerance. And I don't thoroughly understand the way the amount of the amount of neurotransmitters that are attaching to the 5-HT2A. I can't measure that unless it's subjective. But the fact that I could understand it and feel it is, you could argue it's subjective, but I felt it and I could see the world differently. And I continued to have, maybe there's some confirmation bias in there, but the fact that I could do it for 30 days, and then on 2 of the weekends, I took maybe 7-gram doses on 2 of the weekends, and I liked it. It was the problem with it is you become a lot more different than everybody around you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I found myself like not irritated by silly things, but just beginning to get a little bit more weirder than I already am. And that was kind of a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You basically took in other people's energy more easily, right? Maybe.
Yeah. I think that, and I'll tell you another thought that I have, and you guys can tell me if this is crazy, because after that experiment in my journal, I wrote down some different ideas that I was having. And I think you see more when you're on mushrooms. And
Yeah.
I think that's because your pupils are dilated. I think the same is true with LSD, but I haven't done LSD in a long time. And so this is just pure speculation, mushroom George talking. But I think when your pupils are dilated, like when you're in a trip and everything's breathing, right? Like, it's kind of wavy and breathing like that. I think that comes from the default mode network being shut off, and you're seeing things the way they are. You're seeing things moving. If we start looking into the world of, we start looking into the world of
meditation,
how things work. They say that it's just molecules and waves moving.
Yeah.
And when you're tripping your balls off, everything's moving. Now, I wasn't tripping my balls off every day, but I think more light is getting into your eyes. Maybe that's why things are moving. But I think you see more when your pupils are dilated. It gives you a headache. It causes you to you get like this, almost like a hangover headache, because I think all the light is coming in and your cones and rods, like, Jesus Christ, there's too much fucking light in here.
not to mention
But I think you're getting to
neurons.
see more. And I think that is the idea of intuition. And when I
Yeah.
speak of intuition, we all know, like, oh, I think something's going to happen. And it's not so much extra sensory perception in that you're seeing more. Like, and you start thinking about the lexicon of the language, like, hey, that you can see the light. Yeah. What happens when you see more light? Well, you can see more things around you. What happens when you're taking in more information? You're getting more download to your senses. You're seeing a bigger picture. And so I think by being on mushrooms for a long period of time, and I think it's specifically having your pupils dilated bigger, longer, I think you're taking in more information, and I think you're seeing more of the world around you, whether that's, slight ticks of people's faces, or it's just more. It's more body language. It's more of the planet around you, but it's more. And so you have more to process. And so you have more knowledge out there. And that makes you, that could, make you be somewhat of someone that is known as seeing more. Does that kind of make sense? What do you guys think? Is that total bullshit, or what do you guys think about that?
Like your shutters open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
right. things are printing longer.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's what's happening.
You understand them better. You see them with more detail.
What normally your shutter would only see for a flash, now it's
Yeah.
seeing for like 2 seconds, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I see it. You
Yeah,
know?
which is why like you see trails and you know what I mean? It's because
Yeah. Yeah,
and
and
so
that
like
leads to telltales. Like, you know, when people play poker and you can like they have tells because their
Yeah.
fucking eye twitches one time. Like if your shutters open longer, you're getting more information to process in there. And like it comes with a pretty steady headache, but you know, is that new neural pathways being built? Is that more
Where is it?
processing power or
Where is the headache?
the frontal lobe? I think like right up in here. I think
Do you feel okay?
in
So the
so
third eye, if we're going into like spirituality.
I think you could say that. I would say more the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah. I think dude, this it blews my mind because, yeah, I talked to you about this before the stream. This might be a kind of lengthy explanation, if that's okay. Yeah, I got into human design, and anyone here have you checked out human design?
Jason is our human design
Yeah,
guy.
exactly. He got me into it. Like, yeah, now I'm fucking obsessed. So he read me, and I was like, "Whoa, that is insane! Like that is not supposed to be possible. What the fuck?" Right? So I started to really delve into it, and the more I did, the more clarity I found in myself. I'm a projector. I'm a pretty, like, 20% of the world seems to be projectors according to human design, and it's very much about quantum physics, if you want to say it like that, because it goes on to the position of the universe at the time of your day or your birthday, and how that impacted everything in you. Like, that is, for some people, hearing that is like fucking bullshit. Here's the thing, though. If you go into quantum physics and energies and frequencies and vibrations and all those things that Tesla talked about, like, if you understand those, if you have those, you understand the universe, right? I think that the shutter, the eyes being more open, the longer shutter speed, it sounds amazing. But I think there's actually more than that, because you feel that fifth sense. We're trying to communicate that fifth sense, and we call it SLS. We talked about that a little earlier before.
Yeah.
And it's more the energetic connection, that intuitive thing, because you're not just thinking with your meat vessel, you're thinking with your energetic self, which is like the whole. If we're not the soul, but we're just fragments of one huge soul, and when we are meditating, when we're taking psychedelics, when we're going online, basically, we're communicating with more of that one collective consciousness, right? So I think that if you have gone and done your deep work, then you living in flow is way more achievable, because you don't have all that shit that is going to cause frequency when you're doing certain things, right? If you're thinking a certain thought, you're not going to go into a negative spiral because you've worked through that shit, or you know how to get back up, right? So you're going to be way more on that same frequency and keeping that, and then just keep on adding to that. If there's one thing that I've seen, is that the more I know, all of a sudden I break a barrier that is almost fucking physically measurable, where I feel like, whoop, that's the world. It just got bigger. Or I just got more limitless. Who knows, right? And then if you really start to just think about those energies, like if I'm talking to you, I don't think I'm seeing you. I'm reading your energy when we're talking, and I can edit myself real time. And I think that is because of that state that we go into on psychedelics, but we can also do it on meditation through breath work. Now there's a fucking device through light therapy, which blows my mind because it's patented. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it.
Yeah, and that if you can target specific energy level, like energy brain waves, lambda and gamma and alpha and all those things, and do that without the psychedelics, then it is technically light or your brain doing the work, right? It's basically, it's already in you. It's innate in you. And when you get those psychedelics and you go online and you see more, I also think that you feel way more because you're now connected to everything around you. Right? Make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. You know, when I was just talking to someone about frequencies the other day, and you know, the same way I make noises with my face, it's just sending waves.
Yeah.
And somehow I'm sending waves via light speed to you in another country, but you can decipher those wavelengths. And the colors are wavelengths. Everything is wavelengths.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I think that there's something to be said about it. And, you know, I'm a big fan of language. And I think that the language we use to communicate is yeah, Anthony's here face to face, man. Nice. And so yeah, I think that, you know, when we look at it like frequency and waves, and we look at language, like there's a lot of things you can find in historical text or scriptures.
Mhm.
Like they're always talking about the light in scriptures. Like you go into the light, or a light is around someone's head, the illuminated ones, the Illuminati.
Mhm.
Like there's all this talk about being illuminated. And that's what I was thinking about as well when I was, yeah, if your pupils are open, you're getting more light. You're moving into the light. You're seeing the
Mhm.
light. And on a weird sort of way, whenever they draw aliens, their eyes are always like total black. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like their eyes are just always like that. Like maybe they're getting maybe the aliens are getting all the light. You know what I mean? But
dude.
I think there's something to it. And I should write it I should write it out in an experiment form so other people could try to do it and
Yes,
repeat it and see what they thought, right?
absolutely.
It's funny you mentioned the alien thing. So I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about aliens too, and he was like, it's crazy like how we always depict aliens with these huge heads
Yeah.
and big eyes and skinny bodies. So it's like they don't really care about their physicality or anything anymore. Nobody cares about being jacked or being ripped. It's just how much you can capture with your eyes, what you can hear, and how big your brain is to use your brain power. Right?
Yeah.
It's not even
Dude,
about anything else but that.
it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think psychedelics are a
Yeah.
catalyst for that.
Yeah, I think so too. You're now,
Like
yeah.
on some, yeah, go ahead. What you got?
No.
I think on some level, you know, when you look back at the Renaissance, or you look back at, you know, pick your religion. I'll just use Christianity for this particular example, but there's Moses in the burning bush. You know, a lot of people say that the bushes in the Middle East was like an acacia, which is rich in DMT. When
Yeah,
you look back at any mystics or the prophets, they were talking to God. When Abraham was up on the mountaintop, he couldn't even look God in the face. You know, and
yeah,
it doesn't take a whole lot of twisting ideas to see your own hardcore uh your own hardcore psychedelic experience is talking to God. You know, people
mhm.
get weird when you say things like that, but if the voice you heard toward during your 15-gram trip, that could be interpreted as God. The same
Exactly.
way that Isaiah or Elijah talks to God, so too does God talk to us. It's just that people get, you know, especially in the East and West. In the Western religions, if you go out and you tell people, "Oh man, I talked to God," they'll lock you up.
They
But if
have
you're in
locked my
the
friend
East,
up for that.
yeah, for that,
Yeah,
right? If you live in the Eastern religions and you're like, "Hey, I talked to God, I found out I'm God," they'll be like, "Well, congratulations, you figured it out."
exactly. Yeah, because he's literally saying he's God, and that's why he's locked up right now. Literally,
Would
and yeah,
Was that one of the guys I was talking to when we first met?
yep,
Man, he seems like such an amazing guy.
right,
And it's just that they don't understand him. It's too bad there's no one there that understand.
yeah,
Like he didn't seem like he was a problem to himself or
no,
anybody around him,
exactly.
right?
He's
What's wrong with being God? That's a beautiful thing.
yeah. Say that to people who don't see things as we do, because that's why the Islam oriented post became a problem with my community, because they saw that as a religion and they had a stereotype connected to that.
Mm,
And he said literally, like, he found Islam through psychedelics, and I have no issue believing that. He said that he got,
yeah,
also he's in a fucking mental asylum as well. So he was
man.
sharing about a catastrophe that he thought was going to come, and so he's just warning people from his. He was doing 20 grams a fucking day, dude.
20 grams a day?
Yeah, for many days. Like, no
That is a
wonder.
lot of
That's a
mushrooms.
Yeah,
lot.
that
Yeah,
is a
that's
lot. And it was like, no wonder you didn't give your brain fucking time to rest. But there again, he was extremely, it was a religious oriented kind of thing. And now, as my friend says, he's God, and people are just like, you're fucking crazy. No, I just need cannabis and shrooms as my medicine, right? I think that
Man.
if he had more understanding of what we're talking about right here now, he would see
Yeah.
that, yeah, maybe you feel like God, but that is Christ consciousness. You are God, but maybe not in the
Yeah.
scripture way that you think, because now everything is kind of following what he already knows. But if he
Yeah.
knew more, that's the whole point. We just need to talk about these things to make people think differently, just to see maybe there is some truth to this, because that doesn't seem too far off. God,
I would have loved to I would have loved to heard what it was that he saw, or if he had a journal, like,
I know
you know,
he's saying it all the time. He saw Jesus coming out of the sun with a backpack. He handed him the backpack. Now he needed to go around helping people. He's a healer. That's crazy? Really?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. But we see that. We and a very select few people in 7,000 people don't see this. You know,
as long
that
as you're not going out and like shaking people and being like, hey, I gotta give you this backpack. You know
exactly.
what I mean? As
And
long as you're not pushing it on people, as long as it's just you.
yeah. The craziest thing we did was the day we met you. We went out in public to ice bathe and to stand there and just shout to get all those energies up and meditate. But we meditated in November with fucking after being ice bathing. And we sat there for 20 minutes being warm. And people are like, oh, you're crazy. But what is the secret? You know, we have to shift the fucking perspective on all of this. I get really passionate about this.
So here's an idea. I know that in the United States they have Alcoholics Anonymous, and that was founded on somebody that used LSD as the therapy. They tout like a 10 or 12-step program, but I think initially the guy that founded Alcoholics Anonymous, he used LSD and he had a tremendous success rate.
Yeah.
And it kind of went by the wayside because they didn't want that. Some people said, oh, you're just replacing a drug with a drug. But he's like, no, use this once or twice and you'll never drink again if you don't want to, or you'll have one drink. I'm wondering if you could translate some psychedelics. I think you would have the same sort of success rate, and that might be a way to edge into Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Alcoholics Anonymous, we have some of them. They're state run. So it's like you're gonna love this. My brother went through those programs and he got out, but it was not like he got out because of the like-minded community that supported him in getting out. But the rules are if you have one sip, you're out. You're done. Your spot is going to someone else. And I was like, you're really helping someone. Shouldn't you give them at least a few chances and be there and see them and support them and keep them accountable for their journey? That seems more sensible, right? And then here the whole using psilocybin as a retreat, like as a treatment center.
Yeah.
Is so far off what we can do right now because they don't see that if you just take a few, you will not want to do more drugs. Because one dude found drugs in the frickin' prison yard and he was locked up in isolation. How freaking ironic is that? He would have, if he got to eat 2 handfuls, I can fucking damn guarantee you that he will love every fucking guard in there. He would not be any trouble. He would eat your most tasteless food, and he would not come back in, and he would definitely not be an addict if he had the right people around him. So that's why I want to go to prison right now. Like I have said it before, I am willing to go to prison because I think I have things to share now. I didn't have that the first time.
Maybe you could start a pilot program at a prison in Norway.
I tried, but they said, maybe you should remove that mushroom. And I did that because it was my website was basically, this is now a part of my website. And if you get to my website, you're going to see that I love mushrooms. And I think that, yes, sure, I understand. It could be taken the wrong way if you don't have the context. But that is a great idea. We have been talking about it and I just haven't pulled the gun because I'm doubting my own value, which is very freaking interesting. That's a beast that is interesting to tackle. You have everything,
Yeah,
but
so
you
that's
just...
actually, it's funny you said that, Greg, because that's actually for mushrooms. That's actually who we're going to be targeting first. It's in Jamaica.
Yes.
We're looking to target first prisoners, police, and the army because they're like at high stress. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the people who I think benefit maybe most from it in the society. But I think versus in Norway where it's like people are just like well, it's an illegal one, and then in Jamaica, like I had mentioned before when we spoke, it's like it has a negative condensation. Mushrooms, it's not really something that people take per se. And like I said before, the name that they call it is they say junju, and junju pretty much transfers as mold. So like say your mom will be like, don't eat that. It has junju on it. So junju is a mushroom. It's mold. Like people don't eat mold. So it just has a negative condensation right now. But yeah, like you were saying, the pilot program that we want to really start with the treatment is a large doses, not dose, large number of people doing microdosing and running a microdosing study around the people that are in prison, the police, and the military. Really, that's who we're looking to target and see if we can get in with them because Well, I mean, I think it's just like anywhere. It's if you can get the military to do it, and just like with a lot of programs happening in the States, I think it starts with the military. And once they do it, then it kind of trickles down to the general public. It seems like that's how everything starts, like
That's
all the
genius.
technology we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's genius.
And I think there's enough veterans groups out there that have, at least in the United States, that are beginning to, pay for it. Like the VA is passing laws that allow ketamine therapy, and I think I don't know for a fact, but I think that there are some particular areas that have allowed for mushroom use. And there's you can go on Google Scholar and look up the studies, or you know what, I know people that have written studies that I've interviewed, and you could probably go on LinkedIn and find people that have used psilocybin for PTSD, and that could be the foundation for your argument to start a pilot program in a prison, even if it's illegal. You could say, look, I realize what the rules are here, but this is, a lot of these people are here for life.
Not in Norway.
Here is not a not they don't go. There's no lifers in Norway.
No.
Well, that's even better then. I think that you could show what I would go in with an article or some studies that showed, like, here's someone who had a tremendous amount of PTSD. Here's a person that wanted to commit suicide. Here's where they are now. And you could probably have a stack like this thick of them. It would be very difficult for people to turn it down. You're like, look, this costs almost nothing. This particular substance it's already helped this many people in the United States, where it's a Schedule I drug. Like, if you can go to them, and you're a very charismatic person, right? I think that if you went there with your heart on your sleeve and like, look, I want to help people. I've been here. I want to get them out of here. And beyond that, I don't want them to ever come back here. And I can do it. And here's how I can do it. And if you don't believe I can do it, here's how it's already been done. Like, why don't we try to help these people?
Yeah, the problem is, though, generally they're looking for credentialed people.
Yeah, yeah.
Who have, like, so you may walk into a prison and be like, hey, I got this great idea. We should be doing this. And they may even say, yeah, this is a great idea, but you can't do it. Right. So,
yeah,
because you don't have, you're not a psychologist, you're not a chemical engineer, for whatever reason, you're not a doctor, you know what I mean? And so, like, maybe like connecting yourself with somebody, who has a degree, and thinks the same way you think, and starting there, and then still just pushing. But what you can do is really push the whole cultural thing, if that aspect of it is available.
There's someone in your 7,000 followers that has those degrees. I guarantee it.
Dude.
There's someone in Norway, one of those 7,000 people, that's a doctor,
my
a
dad.
Psychologist. Well, there you go, right?
You've literally changed my life right now. I just want to say that to you right now. Paul George. If I was to ever have another kid, it would probably be Paul George. You named, but
you know, my name is George Paul. My middle name. Did you know that?
What?
That's my middle name.
Paul George Paul.
There's no Anthony in there though. I guess could be a George Paul Anthony. That's kind of has like a Greek name to it, kind of a Greek warrior feel to it.
Yeah. But seriously though, like right now, this video is being streamed in the community, and I see that there's one person who actually deemed to show up live. See, this is what we're talking about. We have 7,000 people here, guys. If we can just start collecting those stories, do that. Start.theseppola.com. Go there, hit me up with the stories, because if we can produce emotionally fucking hitting stories, we can literally change everything. We already have doctors. We already have psychologists. We have freaking... I think my dad has the Western Norway police chief on speed dial. So we have a lot of resources right fucking now where I can go and do exactly what you said. Bring the fucking paperwork. Tell the fucking story. What can you go wrong? Like, they can say no. Oh, shit. Fuck. Well, okay. We're going to just keep on going. Yeah.
Well, you sell your idea, right?
Yes.
You sell your idea to people who are in the places where they could actually put your ideas to work. Like, I'm a beekeeper. And I believe, I raise queen bees, and I believe in the health of honeybees, but I don't have a degree in entomology.
Exactly.
Right. But so I teamed up with a guy who has a couple of PhDs, and one of them is in chemical engineering. And he's also, a professor at a university in Japan. And so that's my credibility. Right. So we started to, coming up, theorizing what's killing honeybees around the world, and the arguments against the current types of honeybee research that are being conducted around the world, and like how do we gain traction in this? Well, he's a longtime beekeeper in Japan, and I'm a longtime beekeeper here in America, and so it's a collaboration to where he's doing research. His research is getting shut down because of circumstances of how you have to keep bees in Japan in order to keep them alive and somewhat healthy, and connects with me where I'm not facing here on Maui. We don't face the same adversities that honeybees face in Japan. We come up with a series of research projects that counter the chemical companies, the Dow, DuPonts, Monsanto, Syngenta companies of the world, Bayer, and start cranking out some research that basically taking their argument away. But I couldn't do it alone because I'm just a beekeeper, right?
Exactly.
And so I don't know like all the methods of what makes scientific research. I just I'm the mechanic on this end of it.
Yeah.
Right. I do the work. I keep the bees. I collect the data. I do the work. And so we got to a point where it's like, hey, Paul, you got to fly to Japan because I'm getting ready to meet with the Japanese Minister of Health, and we need to start going through some of this research that we've been doing over the last few years, so that I'm prepared to have a discussion with the guy who's kind of in charge of the whole thing. It was like, wow, like, beekeeper on an island to, dealing with somebody who has all those credentials and teaming up and be able to produce, research projects where people, take notice, and he's in a position, to meet with the upper echelons of Japanese government about what's happening with not just farming and honeybees, but, human health in Japan. And so, like, for you, like the same thing, right? Like, 'cause you're the guy with the ideas, you're the boots on the ground, you're the organizer, you're the guy who's out there, delivering the message. You're wrangling people together. And so to find people, like, you don't necessarily need to go into prisons. You need to find the people who can, the people who have that credibility, those credentials, that can speak to the people who have to, check off a whole series of boxes before they let you get near a prisoner.
Dude.
Right. And then, and kind of go that way. But you're the orchestrator, man. You're the guy with the ideas, and you're the most important guy, right? It's just a matter of assembling your team together, to make all that happen. Whether it's decriminalization or a step further legalization, right? Because if they just decriminalized in Norway, that's a win, right?
Oh, yes, of course.
Right? Legalization is a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
Just decriminalize it. Stop finding people and sending people to jail for using these substances.
Just
and then you go
it.
from there, right? That's one aspect of what you do. That's one aspect of your, of your project.
And that is my network. Literally.
Yeah, for sure. You're networking, and it's going to be an underground network, right? Because what I'm hearing is these things are taboo in Norway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So, it's going to be an underground network. You got to find the right people who professionally, maybe putting themselves at risk, but if they feel the same way you feel, they would understand the boundaries really well and be able to, balance, do that high wire act, and make it, make it a more accessible project for other people. And then there's also the aspect of what you're doing when you're out there, in the community, and you're working with people and you're talking, you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's like you're giving a sermon. So you're doing all these things, right? That's cool. But then getting your team together and having a strategy and then executing on that strategy, it's going to take some time, but you should be able to do it, man. You got, like George says, you're charismatic,
and
people
holy shit. First of all, this is just Jason, if you're watching this, dude, this is literally saying what the chart said, right? Creepy. But second of all, it's exactly assembling the team. First of all, 7,000 people, dude. There's a lawyer in there, and I know that you were there. You, doctor, hit me up. We have something here. So and my friend, one of my best friends, is a bioengineer. It's like having the fucking thing right in front of you, and you're like, oh, I just can't see. That's the thing. But hearing you, like, whoa.
It's hard to see the forest from the trees, right?
Yeah, right. There's a lot of forest there. So, dude, thank you so much, both of you, because now, literally, just this stream right now, it's in the group. So, you were here, like, when it happened. This is pretty insane, right? I just have to reach out. I just have to go and remind the people about the conversation that we already had and say, you want to hit the start button on this? Let's do it, because here's everything you need. Holy shit. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of people. I think you can find a lot of people that are interested in probably, you know what? Jason's in Colorado. I bet you he could connect you with some people that fought for the laws. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think whatever laws they were facing there may make for good literature for you to have in your pocket when you're sitting down in a meeting or when you're sitting down with a team of people trying to figure out ways around it, or, you know, pilot
Exactly.
projects or something like that.
Exactly.
You know, there's a book called John Ronson wrote a book called The Psychopath Test. And in the 60s, when drugs were illegal, they did all kinds of LSD studies with prisoners. And not only is it a interesting read, but it's quite fantastic. One of the stories in there is like it was John Ronson went and interviewed one of the guys that was in prison, and they gave all these prisoners LSD.
Ooh.
And this one guy tells a story about how, you know, he was like so amazed at first, like they took the drugs, and then they tied the people together because they were trying to figure out behavior, and they wanted these violent criminals to be more, you know, in tune with themselves and not be angry. And the guy tells the story like, you know, so we take the LSD, and like I'm starting to feel pretty good, and like they tie us together, and like I look at this giant guy next to me, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm becoming a brother with this guy. And then about an hour in, I realized I'm tied to a mass murderer. And I start freaking out. It's like I'm tripping my balls off, and I'm tied next to this guy. It's a pretty funny. It's a great book. It's called The Psychopath Test. But the point I brought it up for is that in that book, they talk about psychedelic studies they did in the 60s with different types of drugs like that, and they had some really awesome results. So I don't know if you want to. It's fun to read, but it might be worth checking out.
Absolutely. That sounds like amazing content to basically bring to the table.
Yeah. Like, and I'm sure if you just did a cursory glance of studies of psychedelics or other stuff, or
dude,
you know
just the fact that we're talking, just the fact that I'm here right now talking to you and Anthony and Paul, we're literal world shifters. Just let's not go and not acknowledge that, because we're literally doing something that's going to shift things in a big fucking way. And just having those kind of friends, you know, it speaks for itself. You have these amazing the resources that you don't really get anywhere else, like the stories, the research, people to talk to, all these things. See, now I'm getting it. Like they say, the network is your net worth.
Yeah. Amazing to think that, you know, a couple guys with a computer from Canada to Maui to Hawaii could affect drug policy in Norway.
Exactly. How awesome is that? How awesome is that?
That would be fascinating.
Oh, dude.
What time is it in Norway right now, man? It has to be like 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's like 2:30
maybe not
a.m.
3 a.m., but like
2:30. Yeah. But this, see, I love this topic. See, this is like, I'm picking up my son tomorrow from school, and was like, well, I have had 1 week without him. I felt kind of unproductive. I need to do something. I really want to be part of those psychedelic talks with the roundtable again. Yes, it seems like a good idea. Let's just do that. And see, here, that is the intuition you're talking about. That is the eyes.
What are the laws in Norway? It's just completely illegal.
Yeah, it's like
1 gram illegal. Cannabis, same thing.
Yeah, dude, they will spend more resources.
Not even like 5 grams or 3 grams you're allowed on you.
Yeah, well, actually, when I'm thinking about, yes, you can. They're not as hard on you if you have like up to a certain limit. I'm thinking maybe it's even 20 grams of something. But if you go above that, no, actually, when you start talking about it, they have been quite lenient these last few years. They've just been too focused to notice. So we are actually doing something that is good then.
Hey, Tor, what about the possession of mycelium or spores?
You have to say that again. You broke up a little bit.
What about the possession of mycelium or spores?
Yeah, no, those are still like if you were caught.
Spores are probably legal, no?
No, illegal. Like they said they wrote that into it.
Illegal.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's like
Got them
any.
on your clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah,
𝐓𝐡𝐞
yeah.
definitely. But if people are seen here, picking shrooms in the season, there have been stories in the community where the cops have come and there's actually been dogs with them. Like that's just overkill. It's like spending the whole day trying to catch one tuned up fucking moped. Oh God, how is it there?
Cops with dogs.
Yeah. Okay, so in another thing that is exactly the same, only different, is that there's analogs. Like you get like 4-ACO DMT.
Yeah.
Like that's what they use inside like the labs and stuff like that. They have these different analogs that basically break down to psilocybin or psilocin, and that's what it's not technically illegal because it's not psilocybin, it's not a mushroom, but it's the exact same substance.
And that's
And
what's neat.
that's yeah, and that's legal. Like you can get them from labs in Canada. Like Canada's probably the best place to get that type of substance because the labs there are, it's an awesome country. But yeah, so like 4-ACO DMT, there's all these 4-hydroxys, whatever, but it's just an analog. They just add like a hydrogen molecule to psilocybin, and when you take it, you burn off that molecule, and then it turns right into that. So if you had that you could have that substance and have it not be illegal. The same way they have LSD versus like I forgot some of the analogs, but that's another thing in the 60s that they did. We're like, oh, I don't have that. I have this, and it's not classified, therefore it's not illegal. So
Yeah.
I mean, that might be worth checking out. And I've done 4-ACO DMT. It's pretty amazing.
I think that's an American thing, George, because around the world, you could, even though you're giving people a substance that's legal, it's the way that they're behaving and the effect of that substance. They actually have laws against, they're like, I don't know the word for it, but it's like, being a menace or, you're, you know what I mean? You're
different.
Not treating people, properly type of laws, you know what I'm saying? And they fuck you up with that shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, like a lot of that stuff.
Everything's more lenient. Yeah, everything's more lenient in the U.S. versus everywhere else, and then also to I did get Tor. Is that your name?
Yeah.
To your point, I think once America, because America is like the world leader. I think most countries, every country, as far as your banks go, they all deal with American currency, so they're all tied in with the U.S. They don't want to lose that relationship, so they kind of have to follow suit and do what Big Brother does. So I think once America legalizes weed, it'll be legal everywhere. Like it'll fall, and then the same thing will happen with the psychedelics and pretty much everything else. I think they're just a world leader. Everybody has the largest reserves of U.S. currency, and you don't want to lose that ability to do business with the giant. So that's kind of the U.S. has the world by the balls right now to create that kind of paradigm shift. Without the like we spoke about before, I think it's hard for an industry to grow and mature without financial institutions behind it, right? I think even for you to get you could have 7,000 people that are interested in taking psilocybin in Norway, but if there was no support from a bank or something or anything to bank your money with or to work with or to grow the experience and what you're doing, you're kind of just stuck in the mud.
All about the money. It's every time, single time.
No, that's the bottom line. Everything has to do with money. It's all about the money. The reason why the drugs are illegal and stay that way is because of money, and I think that's it.
If people just saw that, that would make me trying to teach people how to earn money not that taboo, because people are actually frowning upon that here. Weird.
Yeah.
But hell yeah. Also, the as you said, also yes, talking about ACO DMT, and there was one thing that I really wanted to stress. First of all, as I said earlier in this podcast, I don't do fucking shrooms anymore. And when you come at the door, when you try to do a raid, like whatever here, because we know that you're watching, we know that we have people in this group, and you're not just here for the knowledge, right? you're gonna have a hard time finding anything because I'm not that stupid. If I'm running a freaking group of this size, do you think that I would have the stuff at home with my kids? No, just saying. So we could avoid a whole bunch of unnecessary shit just by you contacting me like a normal person, and let's talk this out, because you see, I have freaking things. I have research, network, and fucking capacity to go out there and actually speak about this, because you're not owning me. I'm not being funded by the government, and I don't have a job. I create my own. So there's, see, and also I'm not a fan of suicide. I've said that so many times, and it's creepy because I'm not saying it for fun. You know, I'm just trying to get that really out there.
I'm
That
not a fan of
yeah,
No,
because in these times, you know
for
what,
sure.
fuck, shit
And-
happens.
Funny you mentioned the suicide thing. You can get assisted suicide in Canada in 10 days, but it takes 6 months to get your medical license for psilocybin. It can take up to 6 months, but you can get your like somebody to assisted suicide in 10 days. Yeah.
Wow.
If you're end-of-term patient, end-of-term illness, you can get assisted suicide in, I believe it's 10 days. And for psilocybin, to get your end-of-term patient prescription for psilocybin as a medical patient from the Health Canada, the government, it can take up to 6 months that's if you get it.
That is insane. It's like in Norway, if you jump from a bridge that is X high and there's a danger for you dying, you will get a fine for trying to kill yourself. What if you did it because of financial issues? It's so fucking moronic, the entire system. Oh my god.
That's what I'm saying about, like, you know, having the substance that really isn't the substance, and then going to a place like Norway and giving it to people, and then they all trip out, and then, you know what I mean? It's like it's laws like that. Like, you jump from something higher than 30 feet, now it's you're trying to kill yourself type of shit.
That wouldn't look good. It's all about how the neighbor looks here. We call it, we always, you can see it in the freaking neighborhoods. When one does something that is status-wise higher on the ladder than the other ones, and this is probably all over the world, you will see the other houses start morphing down the line, which is weird, right? So if we can just acknowledge that we can be weird, like, you don't have to care about what other people think so much. Yesterday I did a freaking, I call it a ragdoll dive now because I've seen it so many times. I drove 15 hours around Norway just to get a variation from the office. I drove all the way up, and there was like 3 feet. No, actually, I have to convert in my head. 12 feet of snow, which is quite a lot, right? It's like 3 meters, right? You can see like these huge fucking walls next to the road. It was insane. A lot of snow, and it was cold. It was like 22 below Celsius. So we went up there.
Canada.
Yeah, right. We went up there, and I just had this spur of the moment kind of thing. I stand there, said, "Can you record this? Because I've never had any people record this, and I think it would be fun to rewatch after." So he grabbed my camera, he started record, and I just say, "I just felt the snow with my face over there, so I'm trying to do the same thing here." I went up to the side of the road, and I just hands down with my back towards it, and I just jumped, right, hands down my body, and it just face planted in the snow. It looked like a fucking Ace Ventura ragdoll kind of dive. It was like, just do that. Be a kid. Be weird. Have fun. Because it actually feels good. And you want to do more of it. But not enough people are doing it, so it's not catching on. We just need to be kids. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people wear like a mask. You know, like everybody has to. You have to wear a mask to certain people. You can't really be yourself. You can't really do this. You can't really do that. You know, so I think that's really what it is. It's just the pressures of society that we live in today, right? Like, perfect. Like, I look at social media and you see everybody online, and I feel like everything people share online is just highlights of their life.
Yeah.
It's like one long highlight reel.
Yeah.
It's not real things that people experience. Like, you know, like the fact that you got your bills to pay at the end of the month, or the fact that, you know, you maybe not in the best health or something like that. But, you know, I don't know. People never share the reality or the realness of their lives.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I love that.
Maybe relate more to. But I think if I was on a boat in Dubai, I would be sharing snaps all day, every day. But if I was, or I'm sick or anything like that, I'm not going to share that on social media. So I think that's the thing. I think that people wear a mask. I think that's really what it is, you know. And it's not. It's just what I think the world's become more and more. And it's unfortunate, but I see it like when I see the like the metaverse and this whole like Web 3.0 and like where that's going. It almost seems like soon we're just going to be like vegetables. We're just going to go sit in a chair, put some goggles on and headphones, and that's it. That's where we get our entertainment. That's where we get our pleasure. That's how we get our dopamines, our everything. We just sit there. You know, I'm afraid that's what it might be in, I don't know, 50 years.
I think even sooner, dude. They have been. AI got dropped 20th of November. They figured out nuclear fusion in December, and things are happening now at such a rate that is hard to keep up. And people see us as a fucking conspiracy theorist. If you say that AI will start to do things in games that makes it more pleasurable to be in there, to have virtual reality as your reality, and then, you know, just think about what's happen. Ready Player 2 and WALL-E got successful for a reason.
Hey, Tor, do you say America has a bunch of conspiracy theorists?
Oh, yeah. Norway have a very weird way of looking at the world. We do have our fair share of conspiracy theorists, but we always look to America for the real conspiracies. And today, conspiracies are literally just, you know, told you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting to look at society. Like, I like the idea of a mask. I was reading this book called The Spectacle of Society. And if you look at all the events that happen, this guy was talking about the degradation of being into having and having into the illusion of having. And the examples he gives is like, you know, you used to have this lifestyle where you would, you know, before social media, you would buy a house and you would have some cars. And then maybe it wasn't the best house and the best cars. So then you could rent a home and you could lease a car and they would be nicer and bigger, but you never really owned them. And now we're moving into this phase, like you really don't have anything like that. You have a lot of these different like influencers that'll like rent a plane for a day, you know? And so you've gone from being to having, from having to the illusion of having. And it's kind of like what Anthony was saying about a mask, right?
Yeah, and that's what I see in the metaverse. It's like I have land. I don't own a house in real life.
Yeah.
I pay all this high rent, but I own land and a house in the metaverse.
Yeah.
And that's like something that you can't touch. It's not tangible. It's nothing. It's just it's almost like if it doesn't happen online,
it hasn't happened.
It's not real anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why.
And online is not real.
Exactly. That's why I'm so passionate about, you know, the Legacy Forge and the Human Development Center, because that's going to be very virtual reality, but it's going to be it's on the ass end of teaching people from a young age the difference, the balance between nature and virtual reality. Because now, dude, we have to do things that we didn't have to consider when I grew up, like an iPad. My 5-year-old knowing about Netflix and Coca-Cola and all these other things, saying that she got disconnected from her iPad. She's 5 years old, for God's sakes. So if they catch on this early to technology with AI and the fucking rapid development of that thing, if people can't see that right now we have a fucking responsibility to teach people that it is not only about the virtual. We also have this earth and nature and energies and frequencies and meditation and consciousness and fucking liberty caps that we can tap into to not be such a victim in consumption. Like, oh my God, I'm getting so passionate about these things. I had this thing was my face when I started the community of 7,000 people now, but I started it as this because I was a scared motherfucker for what they would say about me. Proof of point, case closed. What the fuck?
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Got to wear a mask so you can talk about things, you know.
The day I did a live stream and I took off the mask online live stream and just, this is fucking me, guys. Put me to jail. And they haven't put me to jail yet. But I'm saying, like, I'm talking to these people because they are awesome to talk to. We're not a fucking... Norway would probably be like a global drug league, probably. And I say that because I've already been said to be a drug kingpin. Because I was catched and some of my friends did some stuff. And because I had done some horrible... I committed robberies, basically, to survive back when I was dark. And when that happened, of course, I was a bad motherfucker because I had done badder things than them. So, of course, he is a drug kingpin. And I was literally portrayed as that for Norway in the biggest newspaper. So I know how quickly people can draw assumptions and just think that because people are talking this way, they have to be crazy, or they have to be fucking conspiracy theorists, or they have to be in league with Russia, or whatever it is today. We
You
just
know what?
had a
Like
conversation.
I wanted to in one of our initial conversations, Tor, you had told me something that well, you told me a lot of things, but there's one thing I keep thinking about. And you had told me, like, in dark times, it's the same as being in incredibly enlightened times. Like if you want to be dark, you have to work to be dark. You have to work hard to get better at it. The same way you have to work hard to be good at it.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you could touch on that again. Like it blows my mind because it makes so much sense. Like, regardless of what you choose to do, like if you're choosing to be like the best criminal, like you have to work hard because there's other criminals trying to be better than you.
Yeah.
But if you want to be the best person that you can, you still got to work hard. Can you compare and contrast those two mindsets for me?
Yeah, and I think that's many people have talked about this before, and very sensible as well. It's so easy to do the easy things. It's hard to do the good things. So if you're doing something to change your mind, if you're changing your way of seeing the world and thinking and reacting to everything and your ego and all these things, it's fucking hard if you haven't seen that thing at work, right? But it's so easy to go up there and just slap a fucking shotgun in the face of a 2-year-old in their crib because they have candy you want. Right? That doesn't acquire much more than being a fucking sick person. So if you want to do things, it's easier to be lazy. It's easier, and then when you're lazy, it's easier to see that, okay, shit, I need something. What can I do? And then if you start drink because you're lazy and you don't want to do anything, maybe you start hanging out with the wrong people. And then that just escalates. After a while, you're starting having ideas because you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most. And all of a sudden, one sees something that you have that they want, a PS3 in this case, right? And they want to take that. They want to have that for themselves. So let's just go in and rob a fucking electronics store. Sounds like a fucking awesome idea. That escalated to having I'm talking about real experience. This is literally my story right now. That escalated to a fake call to the police department where we called in a fatality, which was, the level above that trying to get into the store, level above being lazy, level above being a drunk, which escalated into fucking setting fire to a fucking mall in a drunken accident. And then that pushed on other external factors, which is like, you are a criminal. I don't like you because you burned down my store, which took quite a lot of going to. Like, there was a journey to get to that point, but unwillingly, not knowingly, because it was the easy way to do it. Then all of a sudden, people are starting to avoid you. You become a criminal. You identify as a criminal. You start to do things that criminals do. And you see that you actually have to be smart. You have to think about marketing when you're going to sell weed or you're going to sell speed or whatever. And you have to bring a gun to the business meetings because those fuckers can't be trusted. And you have to look over your back. And you have to store your fucking product in places that people don't want to see you. All these different things requires even more laziness until you reach the point where you see that you have to work for it. You have to do certain things, and for doing those things, you have to go through certain fears. Like, what if the cops take me? What if I am being arrested right now? Which just escalates even more until you pistol whip your friend in the face because it's going to look realistic. All of these things is the exact same as doing something good because it just requires way more to be successful in life in a good, positive way because you have to work on yourself, which is a scary fucking thing. You have to do things that you normally don't do, like trust yourself to have value, to help someone, to ask for the sale. Because if you don't have any support from elsewhere, you have to actually create whatever you are eating. You have to create the income that is going to support your family. For that to happen, you have to value yourself in order to see what you can bring to the table. And you have to do things that is incrementally harder and harder and harder until they become the status quo. So I guess seeing that specter, seeing that darkness and being there and knowing that I could easily have killed, I stopped myself 50% into the journey of killing someone because he ratted me out. I had acid in the trunk. That's when I said, this is probably not a fucking good idea. Maybe I should rethink this whole situation, and started to think differently and read and feed my mind with actual information instead of the fucking dress size of Kim Kardashian and how her ass ruined the internet. Like, there's so many things to study today. This is radiating your nuts every day, and it has Einstein's brain in it. But people are not using it for that. They have fucking scrolling issues. Like, I'm getting, yeah. Exactly. Sorry to go on a rant again, but it is increasingly, like, it's the same thing. You're gonna have to work to go dark. You're gonna have to work to go light, but you have to go work harder to go to the positive side because you have to actually be a good person. That requires work on yourself instead of taking from others. See, that's the point. It requires work on yourself instead of taking it from the others because that's easy. Thank you for that.
No, I think it's a incredible point because when I look at, I'll tie this into education. I think when we look at education today, what we see is a lot of people that have read some books and have want to be teachers, but they don't have the actual experience to teach the thing that they want other people to learn. And I think it's been a problem not only for higher education, but I think even in psychedelics, we have with big pharma kind of coming in and clinical trials coming in. There's a lot of people that are involved who've never really had a psychedelic experience. And it seems
Exactly.
problematic to me that people can heal other people that have never been through a situation before. And so I think you could go full circle. And if you wanted to work with the jails, the fact that you've been through these situations, I think make you even more capable of helping the people that were in prison more than a professional of some sort, more than a caseworker, more than, even a psychologist on some level, because you are a psychologist. You are someone who's been through the experience, who's found a path out, and knows how to show other people that pathway. So I think that as difficult
Yeah.
as it is to tell that story, I think that that is a story that people listen to, not only listen to, but understand. Like that is credibility on a level that most teachers don't have.
I could not fucking agree with you more. I call them overweight certified fitness coaches. Most people who are
Yeah.
certified have just read the fucking book. They haven't done the thing. They haven't. You have people teaching about finance, about how to become a millionaire, but they're working on a salary. Where did you make that logical? Right? It's I could not agree
That's how I
with you
feel
more.
about, yeah, a lot of the life coaches too. Like,
Oh
I see all
my
these life coaches,
god.
and the newest thing. It's like, I'm gonna be a life coach. Like, what can you coach me about life? You're like,
Yeah,
if you got to coach me about life, if you're 100 years old,
exactly.
and then you can be
Exactly.
a life coach.
You need
You've
life
lived life,
experience.
so you can tell me about life. Exactly. You need,
Yeah.
yeah, you need life experience to be a life coach.
People don't see that. They see that is the most fascinating thing I've seen in such a long time. Like how people can just see this will make me money. How do I research my target audience? Like, who should I target now that I'm a life coach at the age of 19? Wow, such incredible stats. Like, that's the world we live in. It's a social media brand. It's Instagram. It's like whatever you can produce to look good, and how you can word yourself. No matter if you're reading from a script, because I see most of them does that. You read from a script, just like, do you feel stuck in life? Do you want something more? Right? These things that just trigger something, and those people are viewed as experts in our community. But I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people. You've gone through the shit. You have learned some stuff that most people thought was science fiction, but rather it was based on those sorts of things. People have gone through the shit to create a journey based on that. And you think that you start to think that you don't have the value, that you have gone through it. But that just makes you a loser because you're now a criminal, right? You don't have the clout because you've been something that everyone deems as stupid. Now it sounds weird, but that makes you doubt yourself to the point where you don't think that you can do anything. And I think that a lot of people are sitting with this. They went through the contrast of life, which I say is the fucking value. That's where the gold is. But they went through the contrast, and sometimes they're still there because they haven't met their like-minded people. So they haven't made sense of their thoughts. They still think they're not valued, and they will not share the value because of that. It's an evil circle, right? And you need a job. So you go to a job, you're so tired when you get home, you don't want to start reading, you don't want to start doing things that is going to require work. You just want to sleep or eat or masturbate or do something until you have to go to work the next morning. It doesn't really allow for any progress in how you see world, how you see your own self, and how you can provide something for other people to actually get out of the prison, the invisible prison that so many people are in. And Anthony, I love the fact that you said that people don't talk about the things that actually are a problem these days. Mental health, the education system, how creativity is being robbed by people because that's just how schools work. You know, all these things that just people don't talk about because it's taboo. So I'm truly grateful for us to have this conversation right now, because I'm thinking it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I know that for me, and I'm curious what you guys feel. I think when I came to the conclusion that if you want your life to be better, you should try to make everyone around you better. You know, and that kind of feeds into the idea that you are the summation of your 5 closest friends. Like once you start, and I think psychedelics helps. It helped
Mm,
me see this. Psychedelics helped me to see that the things I see in other people, like if it's a good thing or a bad thing, I can only recognize what's in me. I can only recognize things about myself. So if I see something in Anthony, if I see something in Tor, or if I see something in Paul that I like, it's me recognizing something that I know. And I'm like, oh, they do this thing that's pretty cool. But you're just reminding me of something either I do or I'm capable of doing.
yeah.
And on the flip side of that, if I see someone that I'm like, I don't want to be like that person. Why don't you want to be like that person? Because that's something that you do that you don't like about yourself.
Yeah.
And so when you can grasp those two things, that the people that you interact with are but a shadow of you or are a mirror to you, is probably a better way to look at it. And then you can say, okay, well, how do I make this person next to me better? What are
Mm,
these things that I like about them? How can I get them to continue to do that better? I think when you start to figure that out and you start making people around you better, you start making your environment better, and you start it's like that, it's that you've turned that negative feedback loop into a positive feedback loop, and you're getting this energy and you start getting momentum and you start rolling and rolling. And next thing you know, you're talking to people from 3 different parts of the world at the same time, and you're vibing and you're
mm.
feeling good about yourself, and you're so I think that those are what you said is 100% accurate. And what do you think about the idea of the people you meet being a mirror?
I love that. And that is why we created
The Legacy Forge.
literally the Legacy
That is
Forge is
awesome.
about that. That is a like-minded tribe of accountability partners who will ensure that you reach success because they have found success in their own hearts. Maybe not, like I say that I'm not a millionaire. I make millionaires, but I'm not a millionaire yet. Right? It's a fucking statement because people have it in them, but they have to have someone else to see that. If they don't see that,
Mhm.
they can't guide them through unearthing that magnificent spark that is within every single person in the world. You just need to see that they're good at that thing. You know,
Yeah.
so yes, I agree 100%. If you don't have mirrors, what are we? Like, we have to have people who can help us along. That's why mentorship is so huge in Asia. That's why rites of passage were a thing before, but they stopped doing those because technology or whatever happened. I don't know. We're gonna get that back through the tribe and the Legacy Forge. Actually, to the tribe and
Legacy Forge.
because it's so important. You know, legacy forgers are people who take that pain, turn it into power, take that mess and turn it into message, and then help and heal the fucking world. Burn the fucking boats. Like,
Yeah.
yes, fuck yeah. But I have something for
Burning the
you.
boats.
Yeah, burn the boats. I have a question for you because I have someone who asked a question a while back. Sorry for not acknowledging you
Nice.
sooner. What age limit do you think that psychedelics should have if it got legal? And I think that's a
Oh,
very good one because oh nice, you have two. I like that. That's
that
something I'm
that
gonna see. That's something I'm
no,
gonna
let's
start doing.
yeah. Can you put yours up? Can you put yours up?
No, it's on YouTube, so I haven't.
Oh,
I can, but it's gonna look weird. But yeah, actually,
oh,
I think that an age limit on psilocybin should be 25 years old, simply because of brain development and all that stuff and life experience. Because the trip will be dependent on where you are in life, what you think, your mindset, your paradigm, and basically how well along your brain is. But that is my opinion. What do you think?
well, it's a great question, and I would reference a book by Aldous Huxley called The Island.
Ooh.
And I think that kids could start a lot younger. I think that maybe at the age of like 12, you would have like a first ceremony. And in my mind, and in that book of like Aldous Huxley, they talk about children, like maybe in the book, they tell the story about they go and they climb this rock. And after they climb this rock, they find themselves at like a monastery. And at the monastery, they take like their first psychedelic trip together with the other kids that were able to climb the rock. And at
Wow.
that point in time, it's a rite of passage. We're like, okay, now you're no longer a child. Now you see what is possible. You've taken the medicine, and now you're on the path to become one of us. And I think it allows someone at that age the responsibility of of understanding. Like, okay, now you get to mentor the 5 and 7-year-olds because you've passed this test. And I think when you give kids responsibility like that,
Fuck yeah.
you weed out some of the angst and some of the pushback they would get, because now they have a job to do, and it's a job they want to do. They probably, and if you look at that in a cycle, the 5-year-olds have a 12-year-old mentor. You could pair them
Yeah.
up that way. And that's in a perfect society, but there's no reason why that couldn't be in a community.
Exactly.
And yeah, and to be honest, I don't see a problem with microdosing for kids as young as like 5. I mean, I'm not saying like that's something that I don't see that as being problematic. I don't think you want to give a huge dose, but
No, CBD is the
I
thing. CBD to children, like seizures and all that stuff. So
yeah, why not?
it's kind of already been done. Like yeah, I agree 100%. That sounds
Yeah,
very much, yeah.
yeah. That would be my take. What do you think, Paul?
I don't know. Sounds a little young to me.
Yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Because now, if we do like the sensible thing and really microdose to a point where they don't see anything, and you know about the development of the brain, and you can follow them along with the personal guidance, and have a system that supports, science. You don't really want to just give them right away. But what do you think, Paul?
Well, I mean, again, you use the word guidance,
Yeah.
right? And for me, in psychedelics, I'm really not into like the whole, coaching, guidance, mentor, shaman type of, authoritative figure. I'm more of a personal journey type of person.
I was the same thing. I was exactly the same thing. But here's what I saw. What I tried, because I was scared. I did not want to share my way of doing it, because it was a very personal and very intimate way of my life. So I didn't want to share that with anyone, because I thought that was gonna fuck it up. I would probably pick up on their energy or whatever. But then I tried. I invited 4 people. Yeah, again, that's when we met George, and then we just talked, and we were there for each other. Everyone was doing their individual journey, but everyone was there for each other. When one, and that happened, had a bad trip, another one stepped in because he saw what he needed, so he guided him back. And there was not like guiding. It was, you're doing your trip, you're doing your journey, and whenever you need anything, you have your tribe around you. Everyone doing the same thing, everyone having the same mindset, and that changed the whole, as you said, the authoritarian aspect of it, because it made things more like a tribe, a community. What do you think?
Nice. I gotta just stop for a minute. My wife is telling me it's time to start landing the plane, man. So, dude, I love talking to you guys. This has been an absolute blast. And
Yeah.
before we quit, though, I wanted to maybe go around the horn and let everybody tell the audience what they're up to, where they can find you, and what they're excited about. So, start with you, Tor. Where can people find you, and what do you got coming up?
Well, we have the thing coming up, which is like creating a brand new world. So right now we're creating a new game. We're creating the entrance, basically. So in a very short while, you can go down to
thelegacyforge.com.
where you can start the journey, and it's completely free. And once in a time, we're going to create a webinar, and it's happening right now. So thelegacyforge.com.
Anthony, did you want to weigh in on the age of psychedelics before we tell people what you got coming up and where can people find you?
I definitely think the kids are too young. I think I'm in between 12 and 25, like you guys are saying. I think I'll say like like 16. What's the age of consent? If you're old enough to have sex,
16,
I think
yeah.
you can have some psychedelics.
See, I think
you
you're
go.
onto
So
something. Thank you.
16, 18 years old, like I think that's like right around the kind of right age. It's where it's for me anyways. I know when I was like 18, like that teenager, like a lot of my favorite things that I did and like all those things like really shaped me to who I am today. Like I still listen to music that I listened to when I was 16, when I was 18. I still enjoy doing things that I did when I was 16 and 18. So I think like that 16, 21, 25, like those kind of ages, that age right there, I think is a good age to
That feels good with me as well.
start.
Yeah.
12 might be a little too young. I do like the mentorship though. The like the 5-year-old being mentored by an 8-year-old and an 8-year-old being mentored by a
12-year-old.
12-year-old and so on. Because for me, if I go and get mentored by a 60-year-old,
it was 30 years ago when he was 60 versus the 8-year-old
Yeah.
mentoring a 5-year-old. It's 3 years ago. He actually really remembers that, knows what it was like, going through a growth spurt or like things like that. So I think that could be something that's interesting. And I think, yeah, giving kids responsibilities earlier on and maybe some mentorship and that kind of stuff, and maybe getting them away from technology would be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other
I agree.
conversation to be had.
I'm 100% on board because 25 was my normal thing, but you blew my mind, George. So yes, I agree with all of you actually, but yes.
So Anthony, where can people find you and what do you got coming up?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Anthony Bailey, or entheogen.com. My cannabis company is herbs.com, or herbsjam.com. And what I got coming up, I've been working hard at the psilocybin thing here, breeding. We've been breeding. We've developed mycelium that produces psilocybin in 7 days instead of the traditional 8-week cycle. And really, me and my partner, Dr. Vangelis, who's actually in Jamaica, and I'm unfortunately in Canada now, but we're working on commercializing our findings and really bringing them to market and seeing what's next. I think we're not shamans or guiding people or anything. I think our biggest thing is giving people clean, consistent product, because right now, the kind of bridging the gap, what I saw in psilocybin, it's just like with the cannabis when it first came out. You saw weed, smells good, look good, this is good bud, but you didn't know how much CBD was in it, how much THC was in it.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're just trying to supply people with product that you can legitimately dose yourself. You know the amount of tryptamine content, tryptamine content in there. So you can, really determine your microdose or your ego dose or your regular dose, whatever you're trying to get to. So that's what we've got going on.
I love you.
I like it. Yeah, man. Paul, what about you, buddy? What's the good word?
Just beekeeping and farming here on Maui.
Hard to beat.
And you can catch me on the Psychedelic Roundtable on Sundays.
Nice. Gentlemen, it's an absolute blast. I'm totally thankful to have met and get to spend time with every one of you. This is going to be a big year for all of us. I got some big things on the horizon. I hope that you'll all choose to be part of them. And I look forward to talking to each one of you more in depth as the year goes on. So thank you to everybody who's listening and watching. Reach out to the guests here. They're all awesome people. They all have a lot of insight and knowledge and would probably love to talk to you. So reach out to them. And that's all we got for today. Ladies and gentlemen, so stoked you're here. Aloha. All right. Let's see.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Fantastic meeting you all.
Yeah. I appreciate it, guys. I'll catch up with you guys soon, man. Thank you for everything, dude. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, you know what? I'll send
a good conversation.
I'll put a Dropbox file with the MP3 and MP4 into the not the WeChat, but the into the forum in there, in the WhatsApp. And then if you guys want to cut anything out of there or use it for any mean, just throw it in there.
Fantastic.
All right, guys. Aloha.
Aloha.
Anthony, I'm gonna reach out to you, man. I got a project.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'd like to. Beekeeping is good. I got bees on my farm in Jamaica, actually. Now that I think about it, I don't do any of the beekeeping, but there's a guy who comes and he's got the whole smoke suit and everything and does it all. But we don't. I'm scared of the bees in Jamaica. But yeah, man, I'd love to chat and learn more. I know I believe in the honey. I think honey. I would say if you eat the local honey from where you are, it helps with your allergies. But I'm sure there's way more benefits and positive effects from bees. So yeah, I'd love to connect and we can chat.
That's cool. I'm working on a project right now involving different types of mushrooms. We're kind of preparing for legalization in California and doing some stuff over here with Copelandia cayennensis.
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh no! Look at his.
We lost him.
You lost him. He actually literally, it looks like a explosion behind him with spaghetti in the roof or something. But Paul, I'm gonna also reach out to you because I think that having these conversations, you doing the same thing, I think that's a powerful thing to just have people to share ideas with and thoughts and basically vibing with.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm all about trying to help people in their pursuits in life. I'm a little bit of a problem solver, right?
I love that.
I enjoy that kind of stuff. And to me, it's always been one of those things where it's like, psychedelics has been a part of like changing my brain from being like a problem maker to a problem solver.
Hell yeah.
But, yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
happy to chat with you.
Good, awesome. Because I have to go to bed right now because it's 3 a.m. But I
Oh, yeah.
thank you so much for everything that you've given me today, because I think my life changed, literally.
Well, awesome, man.
Yeah, it's not.
Sounds good,
It's
brother.
insane. All right, I'll speak to you on WhatsApp.
Okay.
All right, bye. And then there we go. That was amazing. These are the conversations that I have on a very regular basis. Anyone who's on my stream now still, reach out if there's anything that you have questions about. If there's anything you want to close up with, because it is 3 a.m. But what do you think? What do you think about what just happened? If you saw the entire thing, then I believe you should be pretty excited by now, because I've been working towards this for so long, and I haven't really seen my my resources, my own inner resources, not to mention those, and the people that I'm talking to all the time in Norway, in different positions in government, in the things that we have already assembled, the stories, the people, the dreams, the things that is going to change the world, and we just haven't implemented it completely yet. But that is, in a way, that is what we're doing. The LegacyForge.com is literally just a Discord server, and it's where we talk, and it's where we gather the tribe, and it's where we see who is really ready for changing their lives. Right now we have one who's moving down the Amazon. We have one who got a €1 million deal for investing in they invested in his dream, basically. A retreatment center. A center where they can learn how to surf and breathe and meditate. And he's in the fucking group, Norwegian Flame. So all the while there's been so much bickering about shit that doesn't really have any context, like any need. We have been looking completely past the fact that we have so many people who could actually do a change. But most people seem to be more occupied with learning about how to take shrooms. Is this shroom? Is this right? Is this Liberty Cap? Every fucking year. But we have so many resources as well, and people don't want to do the resources. People don't want to learn. People don't want to do any work. That has made it kind of hard. It's made it kind of hard because last time I tried to talk about any of this, I was literally called a cult leader. Now, yes, I will take that on myself, because I did put it behind the Legacy Forge, or actually the FML project, and unleashed the Viking within you. Didn't really have a lot of psychedelic substance, but then again, the open-mindedness just shocked me. The lack of, rather. We have so many things that we're trying to do. I think that in order to change anything, we have to make people see that it is possible to change. And with my story, having gone from the darkness and having come to where I am right now, where I don't have to play by the rules of the government because they're not paying me, I'm not getting paid by an employer, I'm creating my own. And as long as I'm following the law, we can do anything. If you just pay taxes, for instance, making money online is no harder than selling your value to a person who needs it. And that's just asking, do you need help? Kind of literally that. And then just having some system behind it to actually collect the money. But most people, like me, doubt ourselves to the point where we don't do anything. I have clients who paid me 200,000 crowns for one project, and that project was not big. Allowed me to do things, allowed me to study, allowed me to learn new things, to connect to people, to do what I wanted to do in order to kind of refill the cup. Because if you're only doing things that you hate, which seems to be the fucking norm in Norway, then you're not going to have energy to actually do anything that is going to change your life very much. Changing a job is difficult. It's scary. Doing work on yourself is difficult and scary. Most of us are more occupied with telling everyone what we feel whenever we feel offended by the most mediocre thing. Sorry, I almost tapped into Norwegian there, but there are so many stupid things. Just the fact that we had a guy who posted a post about how he found Islam through psychedelics. How is that a religious extremism kind of thing? How is that religion? Like, in the term that you coined it. How is that not allowed to be there just because someone found religion through psychedelics? Can't you just accept that people see the world differently? I mean, I'm a cosmocentric kind of person. A cosmocentric worldview. I think that everyone is just a subatomic quantum fluctuation in a vacuum on a Planck scale. If I went around and told everyone that, they would probably look at me crazy. But hey, we're used to it, aren't we? If we went through this shit, haven't we seen people look funny at us before? And then we did something to actually change our lives, and they saw that, holy shit, what? How are you doing that? Well, then when they start asking how you're doing it, you have done something that is not going to change your life only, but everyone around you. Because now you can actually help people through the experience you gained. But most people see that experience as a fucking burden. Why? We can't achieve change. Like, we're going to do that regardless, but just the fact that we have 7,000 people, and so far I think I have 50 people who actually are people who see things in this way, but we haven't really pushed the gun on this. More or less everyone is afraid of not sharing their spots because the cops could chalk their fields or be there when they come up there to just arrest them and toss them into the prison. What if that happened? So fucking what? If you're getting tossed into prison, there has been worse things. Trust me, I know. I lost my daughter to deportation. That was pretty sucky. Prison couldn't even compare. So if you are doing something for the right cause, getting tossed into prison for this kind of thing is not really a big issue. It's just the whole stigma of being in prison. I've already prepared my family. Like, I'm going to prison. I'm going to talk so high and loud of this that people are going to start to talk behind my back, which they already are, because he's doing drugs. He's been and doing things with the plants. That's not good. I don't fucking care. Toss me into an open service kind of prison where I can go and meet some people that I haven't seen in a while. Now I have stuff to say. Now I have things I can share. Actual knowledge, actual experience, actual value. And it's going to fester from there, guys. I mean, if you toss me into prison, if you're one of those people who like to do that, do it. You should probably isolate me pretty hard. And even if you did that, I was 7 months in isolation the first time around, so I'm pretty good with how my mind works. Nothing's going to happen. So if you can't do anything about the situation by tossing me in prison, you can actually just make it worse, because I can talk to the guards in there. Those are humans as well, with emotions, and sometimes they don't really like the government that they were employed by, right? They're just having a job. Like every single else kind of person in Norway, they have a job. But that doesn't mean that they are fully on board with what the job is saying is real and what's fake and what's legal and what's illegal. When people want to achieve a better version of themselves, maybe they are microdosing. They might be prison guards. If I talk to those people, it's going to fester from within. So you should think about that very closely. That's the amazing thing about psychedelics. You don't need to take them anymore. If you get to the point where you see yourself and you want to you want to do the job, you want to work on yourself. If you get to that point, which could happen in one fucking trip, it's done. Because then everything that happens afterwards is personal development. And that, so far, is not illegal. And freedom of speech seems to also be a thing. Even though we're being censored like fuck on Facebook and everyone else, there's places like Discord or decentralized networks like on the blockchain. NFTs are a thing. We are taking our privacy back. Discord, thelegacyforge.com. We are trying to build something that is so bigger than what you think, that is pretty breathtaking. It's coming out very soon. We already have everything set up. We just need to trust ourselves more. I hope you like this. Sorry for the rants, because I have been known to have a passion within this. I do tend to carry on when I start to talk about this, but hey, it's my therapy. It's how I do it. And it's my journaling. But I have to get to bed because it's 3:30 or 3:15 a.m. Love your face. I hope you like this. If you did, let's work with the algorithm. Like, subscribe, share. If you do that and you comment and all those things, the platform is going to think that this is good content, and then more people are going to see it. And you know what happens then? More people are going to join the whole fight, the movement. So share it. I'm not just saying that because I want plugs. It's important. Love your face. If you want to get on one of these streams, hook me up in thelegacyforge.com. Take care of your fucking family. I'll see you in the next one. Love your face.